How's it going, everybody? Monday morning quarterback episode 199. One away from the big 200. I don't remember if we did anything for 100 or not, but
before my time.
Yeah, I don't know. But 199. Previous 198 of these are cataloged nicely on our YouTube channel. Please subscribe and ring the bell for notifications while you're there. That helps us keep these coming to you. So before we dive into tonight's topic, which is what you can learn from watching your driver's hands, we are going to we're going to answer a couple questions that have came in the last few videos. So last week we talked about shock adjuster needles and how, depending on what type of needles in your shock, how big or how small the range of the shock adjustment would be. And so we had a question come in that was, how do we know how big our range should be? Which is a great question. So oftentimes, if you are really switched on to how you're adjusting your shocks, you can answer that question yourself. So what's the softest you ever go? What's the stiffest you ever go? If you're not confident in what those numbers should be, your chassis manufacturer or your shock tuner should be able to answer that for you, as far as like, hey, on a tacky track, this is the most you're ever going to have, and on a slick track, this is the least you're ever going to have. 10% above and below that is okay, but I wouldn't recommend any more range than you necessarily need, as I mentioned last week, for those reasons. If you missed last week, watch it. It's a very informative as far as understanding how adjustable shocks work. The next question came in, and it pertained to raising the nose on a wing sprint car and why few people do that anymore when the track slicks off. And the answer is probably pretty easy. A couple things. One, bigger wings than we used to run, right? If you're thinking back, well, when the wings first came out, they were massive. Then they were smaller. Then they got bigger. Then they're kind of been at the size they're at. But we're going faster. We're making more downforce. As the track slicks off and guys start to get their wing back, what we've found is it loses the nose really easy. And what I mean by that is, especially when the thing's full of fuel and then you get the wing back, the front end, if you don't have enough rebound in your shocks, or if you have the front too high, it comes up really easy, and then the driver cannot steer the car into the corner. You know, in the 80s and 90s, when it slicked off, guys would just start putting rounds in the front of their shocks to help with forward drive. That was before shocks got better, before we really honed in on what the rebound numbers should be, and probably before we were getting the wings as far back as we get them now. So that's the main reason for that. If you just raise the nose of your car, it really limits your ability to get the wing back, especially when you have the tank close to full of fuel, or you know, with 10 more gallons in it than you'd run in the heat race. You know, you have 70 pounds more hanging off the very back of the car. Guys wanting to get the wing valve back to help with traction, and when the nose is up, then it really inhibits his ability to get into the corner steering wise. So a couple great questions. Keep those coming. Those definitely help us. So tonight, watching your driver's hands on the steering wheel. Are they doing this on entry? Are they doing this on entry? And the reason I say on entry, that's where you should really hone in. We did a segment on breaking down the corners breaking down the segments of the corner. And entry is most important, because if your entry isn't right, it's really going to foul you up middle to the exit of the corner. And a lot of people, especially with their younger drivers, and I've even had veteran drivers, they want to tell you the last thing their hands are doing on the exit of the corner, because that's the last thing in their mind before they go down the straightaway. And so if they're tight on entry, right, and they're left hand down on entry, and then that causes the car to snap loose, and on exit they're, you know, right hand down and they're sliding, they're typically going to tell you what happened on the exit of the corner, not the entry. So I always focus on, what are the guys' hands doing on entry? Do they look right? Do they look how they're supposed to look? If they do, then where are they at in the middle? Where are they at on the exit? And you can learn a lot by watching your driver's hands. I know as the cars have gotten more bodywork, it's became more difficult to do. I never would want my driver to wear black gloves because it makes it really hard to see their hands. So a white or a neon glove really helps you see what their hands are doing. It also can lead you down the path if you're, especially pavement, midget or sprint car racing, but even dirt, if their hands are moving a lot more than you think they should, what are the front tires doing? And if the guy's hands are moving a lot and the front tires really aren't moving that much, chances are your steering box is wore out, your steering pump is down on pressure, and you can definitely get false feedback from the driver if he's just cranking on the wheel thinking he's tight as could be and the tires really aren't turning. So that's something to keep in mind. Not really an issue quarter midgets or micro sprints, but when you get to bigger cars where we got a power steering pump and a steering box, that's definitely something to keep in mind. If a guy's moving his hands, man, he's in there just sawing on the wheel and the front tires are barely turning, there could be an issue with your power steering pump not putting out adequate pressure or the steering box just having too much slop and being wore out. Always when you're talking to your driver, ask them, how's the car on entry, right? Rather than just a rash, how's the car on entry? Make them really think about what they're doing with their hands and feet on the entry to the corner, because that's going to dictate the middle and the exit 100% of the time. So just coming back from the Battle at the Brickyard quarter midget race, you're dealing with a lot of young kids and it's really hard to break down what the car is doing, what if it's car issues or driver issues. You got quick 6-second laps. I really pay attention to the angle of the car on entry, positioning on the racetrack, and what the kid's doing with his hands, because he could be looking like the thing's tight with his hands, but if his angle of entry isn't correct, and he's diving the corner and having to put more wheel in because he took a sharper entry to the corner than he should have, that can make a good handling race car look bad. Usually that's not always the case as the drivers are getting older, but quarter midget racing in specific is extremely difficult because it's very line sensitive. The laps are happening extremely fast and the kids are young, right? So we ask a lot out of those young kids to be super precise and hit the right line every single time in a 5.5 or 6 second lap. So in addition to watching quarter midget drivers' hands, you really got to pay attention to what the car position is and what the angle is on entry, and that'll lead you down a road that will definitely help you improve and make the correct changes to the setup of your race car. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be back next Monday at 9 p.m. Please share this video with your friends. It does a lot for us, and we hope you all have a fantastic week.